Okay, so calling the meeting to order, and we'll do introductions. And I think, Hannah, you want us to incorporate any updates we want to offer within our introductions.
Yeah.
So I'll start, and then I'll kind of go around my screen and call on people. I'm George Tlemcen. I'm the planning board representative to this committee. I'm the vice chair of the committee. I facilitate these meetings at the behest of the chair. And I'll just offer one observation as we've been talking so much about housing and different housing initiatives and alternatives that have been introduced. And I have just, after months of effort, arranged for someone I work with as a client through CSO to get into the Safe Haven residential program. And that's something that started within the past, I think it just had an anniversary. It's been around for about a year. So I just wanted to say I'm very grateful for that option to be available. It's a small number of people, but for every person, it's a wonderful opportunity. Anyway, I'll stop there. And Hannah, why don't you go next, please?
Yes. I'm Hannah Reckshoffen. I'm chair and member at large. And I have two quick updates. One is I told Travis Drury from the CPC that I would share that they have a seat opening up on the CPC that would begin in June. So if anyone or anyone you know might be interested in joining that committee, they should reach out to the mayor's office. And then I had the great fortune to attend a 2-day strategy session with the Center on Rural Innovation these last couple of days and talk about the future of Franklin County's economy. And that was really exciting. And it feels like there's just great energy abounding. So looking forward to it all.
Thank you very much. I'll call on Nancy Carroll.
Nancy? Oh, me, Nancy Hazard with Greenfield. And I guess I'll do a little self-serving kind of announcement that we've had two events. Paul and the Greenfield had two events around converting lawns, transforming lawns into more robust kind of habitat. And 80 people attended one of the meetings. I was just blown away. Lots of interest. And we have two meetings coming up around Mass Save, which I'm also very excited about.
Thank you, Nancy. Carol, and then we'll go to Jonah after that.
I'm Carol Collins, Director of Energy and Sustainability for the City of Greenfield. And I'm, my head is spinning with so many things, so I'm just gonna say hi.
Thank you very much. Go to Jonah and then Greta after that.
Hi, folks. I'm Jonah Keene, member at large.
Thank you. Greta, then Phil.
Hello, I'm Greta Schwachman. Still don't have a hang of this youth representative. Someone needs to write this down for me. And also the food service director for Greenfield Public Schools. My update is that our department has officially announced that we are getting a food truck coming this spring. We'll be hitting the road in time for our summer program and will serve as a mobile site going around the city and providing free meals to kids. So we're very excited about this and stay tuned for more information. But the goal is to increase food access in the community.
Thank you, Greta. Phil?
I'm the city council representative. I heard Greta's nice pitch for a food truck. Sounds like she's going to get her money and her truck. Are we supposed to be doing elevator pitches today? I can't remember.
Yes.
That comes later. This is
later in the agenda. Yes.
All right, I'm going to stop here.
Thanks so much. Anna, did you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Anna Oltman. I'm the Community Development Administrator in the Community and Economic Development Department. I'm not a voting member of you guys, but our department has been staffing the committee. And I actually have an announcement, if that's okay, I'll make it brief. But myself and Athena, who's the grant writer for the city, are putting together a grant this summer called One Stop because it has a bunch of different components, but two of them that we thought would be of quite a bit of interest to you guys. One is looking at filling in the quote missing middle of housing, so housing for folks who are maybe just above the cutoff for quite a bit of support. And another is looking at trying to staff up some kind of organization in the city to do programming of cultural interest in a kind of systematic way, and to work with the GBA and with the city. So anyways, we were wondering if you guys would be willing to have us present that to SGIC at some point. The main reason being we would like some feedback from you guys as the implementation committee about what you think about what we're putting together. So I'll email Hannah and George about that afterwards. So.
Awesome.
Nice. Thank you. And appreciate you jumping in with both feet to your work here on behalf of the town. Thanks. And just to touch base on other committee members, and you said someone had contacted you, they wouldn't be here, is that right? Or is this Kim might not be here because of the other conflict?
Yeah, Kim was on the fence about being here because he wanted to attend the CPC meeting. And then Mary Chacon, I should say too, is not starting until April. So I just
Thank you. Thanks. I was wondering about her. And Marlo, we hadn't heard, you said.
Haven't heard.
Okay. And MJ is okay. We're not sure of her status at the moment. Okay. Thank you very much. So moving on to approval of the February meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
So I have a quick question about this because I noticed that there are a lot of comments in the minutes that I sent around in the document, and I didn't go through to approve them there, and wasn't really sure if it was usual to put comments in there for approval. So do we want to pull them up maybe, and I can read through those comments?
Sure. I mean, anything that would have to be on the public record by being discussed here. So what you're sharing isn't in the public purview at the moment. It doesn't sound like so.
Unless anyone who put comments in the document wants to just verbally share them, but I'm happy to just read through for.
Okay, but you're not suggesting we table it. So typically we would have a motion to approve in a second, and then that would be part of the discussion, just for procedural.
No, I just wasn't sure what to do. What to do with the.
Sure. But it sounds like they're not so voluminous. We can't just go through them pretty quickly. So we just have that motion and second, and then we'll jump into discussion.
Yeah, someone has to move to accept the minutes, and then we can discuss them.
Okay.
That looks like Nancy's hand is up. Anybody second it?
I can second. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. So discussion on the minutes. Do you want to just go down from the top, hand with any?
Sure. Let me open them. Where did they just go?
I can just offer the one thing that was passed along by MJ was that in the list of folks who are absent, we should eliminate Christian because he's not, he was providing some support service for this committee, but he's not expected to attend. So that should be deleted. I doubt there's any debate needed about that.
Maybe while she's looking, I'll say
Yes, Nancy.
I added a note that I want when I was mentioned that we're holding the meeting, I wanted to people to know it was about Mass Save, and then when I put notes in today, I put in more information than we knew last week, so that probably wasn't fair or accurate. So anyway, I don't know how you want to deal with that, but.
What would it take to correct what's in there now, Nancy?
Right, we should only do whatever happened at the meeting. This is a record of what happened at the meeting.
Right, yeah, I recognize that.
So are you going through it, Hannah, or should I call on people? Or you sound like, Hannah, you had stuff on a document.
Either way, yeah, what I have in the document are comments from, it looks like Carol and Nancy.
Yep. Do you want to just
You
run
wanna
through
just
those since you
screenshot?
have?
Mm,
Carol, did you
I
want
just want to say that basically there were a few typos, so I just put some
Okay.
edits there. And then I was just correcting the information around the 10-minute walk initiative, or I think it's called, yeah, I think it's called 10-minute walk. And so
Okay.
that was it. And I wouldn't have done it except I saw Nancy was in there already. So I was like, well, I guess then this makes it easier. But I should have
Yep.
known better.
However we do it, we just need to run through it now and then we can
Okay.
move on. So we've covered one point.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, George, go ahead.
No, I can just offer a typo, which may have been one Carol saw at the very bottom of the first page. Under the speakers discussion, MJ's comment, it says general acceptance. It should be general acceptance.
Thank you, George.
Eliminate the LY just for grammatical purposes. Thank you, Hannah. But go ahead if you have other details you want to.
Sure. Okay, so I have a suggestion by Nancy to, where are we? Replace the word speaker in the Green and Greenfield workshop with workshop on heat pumps. Any argument?
Could you say where you are in the minutes, Hannah?
You could keep that part and throw everything else away if you'd like.
Okay. I am towards the end where Nancy says Green and Greenfield workshop on heat pumps announced Mass Save Community Action Workshop for income eligible people. I think this is the additional info that was.
That's correct.
It was just more specific.
It shouldn't really be in the minutes. Yeah. And there was an update on.
So it's simply green.
I
So
just
it's simply eliminating the word speaker.
and
Is that
add
what I'm hearing?
words, heat pumps.
And replacing it, yeah, replacing it with workshop on heat pumps, which is just more specificity about what the speaker is about.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
And other
Um,
ones from Nancy or Carol's typos or?
No, you can erase all the rest of the stuff I wrote there.
Nancy, had you mentioned the date, April 3rd, during the meeting?
I mentioned the date, April 6th, was just changed since those minutes were written, but minutes are minutes, so.
Well, it seems like it would be more useful to have the correct date in there, if that's allowed parliamentarily. Can I move that as a motion that we put the correct
One
date?
suggestion you could do is just put it in brackets that date was changed to
Okay,
the 3rd or something
right.
like that. Just if we're trying to.
Non-material change or useful change.
Uh,
And what else do we have, Hannah?
uh,
No, Carol mentioned typos.
let's see, yeah. Let's see.
Or should we have Carol just run through them?
I would move to say that everything I see from Carol, if we just want to accept them, they're like small edits that would just make the minutes more grammatically correct.
I move that we accept the changes as they're put in that document and
Okay.
use this document to replace the minutes as they were. I'm not quite sure how they get saved. They go to Hannah and then I lose track.
No, it's
Okay.
I'm editing in real time, Phil. So I take what you send me and I put it in a Google Doc so that we have it
Okay.
kind of in perpetuity, so I can update it here and it would just be more typo-less.
So I make
So I
that
guess-
motion that we make those changes.
So I guess you're trying to replace the motion, or you say, okay, so you're saying to use that document. Okay.
Well, this
so is there
document,
a sec?
this document is the document. This is what I sent
It-
her.
But it sounds like there were some changes in there, things to make it
There were-
more grammatical or something.
There were comments.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. So Phil is suggesting, I'm not going to second it. I will say I would object to approving anything I can't see. And I
Okay,
can't see
Oh.
that right now. So I'm just saying, as a matter of principle,
okay.
I'm not going to approve anything I cannot see or have read to me. But that I'm just one voice. So Phil is suggesting a process. Does anyone want to second that?
Well, George, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Well, why is it you can't see them? Because you're not on a computer?
I'm
Because
on a computer. I'm looking at everybody here. I don't think it's screen saved or screen shared. I can't see it. So-
If I believe Anna has them, so if we wanted to screen share them, we could go through it visually, if that's easier.
They were sent by Hannah on 3/21 as an attachment.
I have a copy. I have a copy of the minutes that Hannah sent.
Right.
And I don't know if something hasn't changed. I heard then comments on those. I'm a bit confused.
Sure.
I
So-
heard Hannah say there were comments on that document. I haven't seen those comments. So
Got it. So yeah, so for clarity's sake, what I shared was a Google document. So I think the comments, Nancy and Carol put comments in the Google document. And so if that document before then was downloaded or printed, it would not have the comments in it. It only has the comments in it in the digital form. So we could screen share to look at that form digitally. Oh,
I'm
Carol,
just going to delete my comments. I'm sorry, this seems highly ridiculous.
I
That
have
is
another alternative.
Ditto.
meeting, and I'll just delete my comments.
No,
There are a few
I think
typos, and let's just move on, please.
I think I have a shorter solution, is that we table this until everybody has a chance to look at the Google document in a current state, and we'll take it up next month. I agree that we've spent too much time.
I think that to me, I think is a delay that doesn't feel necessary. I feel like if everyone,
they look good. I think they're very intelligent corrections. I would just move to check them and then make that call it a day.
Okay, and
Well,
we
so it
lose.
sounds like Greta is
Seconding
it sounds
my
like Greta is seconding Phil's motion to accept that document.
Just to check off all of Carol's corrections. I think they all look great. They make it make more sense. And just, yeah.
and
Personally.
So we have a motion and a second to accept that document. Is there any further discussion?
the only other
If
thing I would
not-
say is, okay.
No, go ahead.
The only other thing I would say is in agreeing with Phil and Greta on this, we could do that right now on the screen, going through and checking that. Anna could go through and we could meet in the middle where, George, you would see the comment, Anna would check the little thing, and we would watch it all correct itself.
Okay. I'll just also offer, Carol, has voiced the opinion that we're spending too much time on this. I don't think any of us would disagree. An approval of minutes, any vote doesn't have to be unanimous. If the majority votes for it, then it passes. So I would suggest we just go ahead and vote if there's no objection. So all in favor of accepting that document as our official minutes, please say yes. And I see, Carol, are you? Okay, so that's 6 yeses, and I will vote no. So for the minutes, thank you. Okay, moving on. SGIC meeting elevator speeches. Here you go, Phil and Hannah. You're leading us on.
Oh, shoot. Okay, wait, I'm accepting comments. I'll do it in a minute. I'll do it in a minute. Okay, all right. Let me just get my little timer going because I can talk forever. Okay. All right. I'm Hannah Rechtschaffen. So my background is in arts and culture-based economic development, also sometimes called creative placemaking by me. And I really came to this committee because I am a huge planning nerd and was very excited when I moved to Greenfield to see that Greenfield had a master plan, and not only had a master plan, but had a committee that was active in the implementation of that master plan, because I think as anyone on this committee who has dealt with planning knows, it's very common for plans to get shelved after they get made. And so being on this committee for me was an opportunity to be really active in better understanding the community I lived in. So I did join right after I moved to Greenfield. And then also be very active in helping to move the needle on what the community wanted, because the community had been very involved in the master plan. So my passion really is around arts and culture and what that does to drive the health and inclusivity of a community. But economic development for me touches, of course, all things. So I think, yeah, that's where I'm coming from.
Thank you, Hannah. Did you want to, in running this, do you want to pick on people, or do you want me to just
I can
want someone to volunteer next?
Is anyone feeling
Anyone else?
the itch? I'll pick on Jonah. I like his background.
All right.
No pun intended.
Right,
Oh, nice.
right.
Good. Nice point, George. Hi, folks. So yeah, my background is in ecology, in environmental science. I have a master's in forest ecology, and my professional work has been around, has primarily been with the Student Conservation Association and with Mass Audubon. And so I've been focused really on environmental education, on access to nature, and trail improvements. With my first postmaster's work, and then with Mass Audubon, it's been pretty broad focus. What I've been working on has been land protection, environmental education, and a really strong focus in the last 5 years or so on climate change, particularly climate change education and advocacy and adaptation. So ecological restoration projects, land protection work related to preparing for the changing climate. And I live in Greenfield. I've lived here for 10 years. I grew up in Shelburne Falls and went to the Greenfield Center School when it was next to Foster's in the 80s. And so I have a long connection with Greenfield, but I've lived here for the last 10 years with a couple little ones now. So I'm quite invested. We love the town. And when Nancy approached me to join this committee, it seemed like it was a no-brainer for me, especially since I'm involved with other towns' work in improving those towns. Why not be involved with the one I live in? And I'd love to bring my particular focus to this committee and thinking about land protection and climate change adaptation and mitigation when possible.
We have another volunteer.
I'll
I can go ahead.
volunteer.
Please, Phil.
And you'll learn that it's always a mistake to give a writer 90 seconds to tell his life story. So with apologies, this is not what you asked for. Baby boomer, dad, American radio operator, mom, French translator, meet World War II in Algiers, fall in love, get married, have 2 kids, dad dies, French grandmother moves to US, mom learns typing, gets job, remarries, stepfather hates live-in mother-in-law, she hates him, I hide in my bedroom reading books, imagining life as a writer. Fast forward 30 years, me broke in New York, knocking around the edges of the writing business, get job as temporary secretary at Weekly News Magazine, hired as researcher, report cover story about computer whiz kids, drawing heavily on experience of my high school computer class. Get a chance, get a writer's slot, every story gets rewritten top to bottom, finally learned to put the A's with the A's and the B's with the B's. 10 years later, with a dozen cover stories under belt, promoted to senior editor, then science editor, an executive editor at a tech magazine in San Francisco. It folds. Monthly Biz magazine reels me back to New York. It's a bad fit. Take retirement package, get paid for a decade to write a blog about Apple that I'd started in California. 3 kids later, 30-year marriage on the rocks, reconnect with high school girlfriend, move to Greenfield with dog, walk every inch of Highland Park, fascinated by town and dysfunctional town council, figure I could do better, design clever lawn sign, get elected. I'm like a dog that caught the cat. 3 years later, not having done much better, pretty discouraged, find the most hope for Greenfield in this committee. Sorry, it wasn't what you asked for.
That was perfect.
You win.
That's a hard act to follow. I love your sense of humor.
And this will be going up on GCTV. Well, I can go ahead then. I've most of my life had a commitment to kind of a holistic lifestyle and living on the planet. It was early influenced by my mother, who was a environmentalist by avocation. I also was very impressed with in the early 70s, the OPEC embargo, impressing upon me the finite nature of resources on the planet. And also still remember fondly the 55-mile-per-hour national speed limit that President Carter imposed. So I've long had that kind of general sense, and my focus has, as people probably have caught on, been largely on transportation. Since I was a teenager, I loved walking and taking long distances, and as an adult, I've had a decades-long advocacy for alternative transportation, as well as disability access, because my in rehabilitation. I've for decades now, I've carried around a snow shovel and an icebreaker in the winter in each community I've lived in, clearing sidewalks, clearing curb cuts for folks. I also did a graduate school project when I was at BU about the influence on sidewalk clearing when homeowners were informed of what the expectations were and the needs of people with disabilities. The sad outcome was there was no difference between the control group and the people who were given that information. And when I moved in Boston, when I was working doing psychiatric outreach, I did that all for 8 years exclusively on public transportation. When we were going to move out here, the first thing I did about 6 months before we moved, envisioning we'd live somewhere in the valley, is I got a bunch of bus schedules to figure out how I could travel around the valley. And also, when we did move here, we bought a house within walking distance of the downtown. When in doing outreach work out here, I've needed to rely on a car to a large extent, but also continued to do as much of the public transport, my outreach work, either by public transportation or walking or bicycle. And I was inspired in, about almost 10 years ago now by the sustainable focus of the master plan. So I sought to get on the advisory committee, and then I was voted chair of the transportation subcommittee. And it was just a very intense, very rich and dense process of just exploring things in such great depth and with a lot of materials and a lot of experts and a wonderful subgroup of people working together. So, and then just it's been an honor to work on this committee to continue that process. I guess that's it. Thank you. Nancy, Carol, or Greta?
No. Okay, elevator pitch. So I grew up in Eastern Massachusetts, looked at every NESCAC imaginable, like had UMass available to me, all of these great resources, went all the way to Houston, Texas for college, Was going to be a stats major. Somewhere along the lines, discovered how much I love food. I was the pickiest eater. I didn't have a salad until my senior year of high school. And then I just like totally fell in love with healthy eating and food. And, you know, I had to go all the way to Texas to figure it out when it could have been right here in my backyard. But then I ended up out here as a food corps service member after college. And I ended up studying health sciences and was really interested in nutrition and food systems, but also arts and culture. I worked at the arts gallery. I've always been interested in transportation. I studied around in Copenhagen and I rode my bike everywhere. And living in Houston, it was really interesting because, you know, it's like the most sprawled city in America. So, you know, I took a class on transportation. I just always had like very diverse interests and never quite known like what path to follow. But, you know, I went down this path of food. And then was placed in Chicopee and really, you know, lived in the community, worked in the community, you know, worked with students, did a lot of hands-on work in school gardens with nutrition education, partnered with organizations, worked to kind of, you know, be part of a group that was revitalizing the downtown. And now that I'm out in Greenfield, you know, I'm like, I want to be involved, you know, and it's a shame that I don't live in the community, but, you know, I'm trying, I'm still relatively new and I'm trying to come out on the weekends and stay for functions after work and just be more involved, but I'm still kind of, you know, making those connections. And I'm really excited about all the opportunities for connecting with the community, with our food truck and our summer program, and just, you know, getting more and more connected all the time. So it's really exciting. And I love that there is a plan. Most places they're working to do this. So this is really excellent.
Thank you, Carol. Answer, Carol.
Okay, Carol, you're gonna go next.
You can go, Nancy.
Okay. Didn't think I was going to talk about the early things, but okay. I grew up in New York City in the 50s and was scared shitless about the Cold War. Thought I was going to die. And there we are. Nowadays, I'm concerned about climate and biodiversity crises. And I was really fortunate that, I guess like George, it was in the 70s, I was really concerned about resource depletion. And then I didn't know about climate at that point, but then it came. So anyway, I've been really fortunate that I've been able to work on the solution side of the climate crisis most of my working life, first as a builder of solar homes, and then the director of the Tour de Sol, America's Green Car Competition and Festival. And our vision, and I don't know how many of you saw the Tour de Sol when it came through Greenfield, but it did come through here a couple of times. Our vision was electric vehicles recharged with renewably produced electricity. And we invited car companies, utilities, and students to participate in an 8-day road rally and to showcase that EVs, electric vehicles, actually worked. So that lasted for almost 20 years. The road rally event did. So after I've retired, I worked with the city of Greenfield on collecting data and writing the Greenfield Energy Audit in 2008, and then worked with the city on the Energy Smart Homes project and peripherally on the Solarize project, which Carol did most of that. And she did most of the Energy Smart Homes too, I might add. And then with Green and Greenfield, we did a number of workshops that had to do with energy stuff. And recently I got involved in the biodiversity side of things and promoting solutions around the biodiversity crisis through Green and Greenfield's pollinator campaign, like transforming our lawns into something else. So that's me. Okay, Carol.
All right,
Thanks, Nancy.
Phil, because I'm going to go in a different direction, but I am just going to say though, there's a link. I've been trying to see a link with everyone. So Jacob, I worked for the SCA, wound up in Nebraska, terrible place, but I got to study ducks, very fun. Phil, you worked at Time, right?
Mhm.
I worked at Life, and I don't know. For Nancy, I'm just going to say there's 2 new EV chargers, and Tour de Sol. I wonder if you ever imagined where we were would be at today. And Greta, I'm not sure yet, but like minds. But I'll just say I grew up on Long Island and I didn't belong, and was constantly called the hippie, and that I was born at the wrong time. It was very conservative where I was from, but thank God I had the ocean and just loved to be outdoors from a really young age. And then I am going to say it. It's the Indian that was crying in the commercial in the early 70s. I was only like 4. Such a powerful commercial to me because littering was a big thing. And, it was really kind of the beginning of in my consciousness of the environmental movement. And then it was Grizzly Adams, and I wanted to save the world. So that I was formed by TV because my parents were definitely like, we don't know where she came from, but not from us. Like I just was never fitting into that mold. And my mom's dream for me was to be a secretary and get married. And I was like, why do you hate me so much? Why would you want that for me? But just different generations. So my whole guiding force was saving the planet, which I know small, but that was my wish when I was in high school. So for me, I wound up going to Marlborough College in Vermont for environmental science. And my focus was at the time, because there was no terminology, ecological building design, solar energy design. And even my advisor was like, why do you want to do that? Nobody cares. And he was a pioneer in the field, but had been so burnt out because this was the mid 80s. And believe it or not, that same technology that he was teaching on construction is what we're doing today for net zero homes. So it's very exciting. And it's also, I've definitely been on a roller coaster as we're finally entering this time now where I get to do this role for the city. I've had a hand in many, many things. I feel very fortunate that even though it's tiny, that we're making a big difference in our little corner of the earth and having a much smaller impact and implementing things that are then being done throughout the state. And, so it's really exciting to be able to have the autonomy to do these things. The problem is there's just not enough hours in the day and things are just so complicated, but it's all very exciting to see that we're kind of, I really feel like we're, depending on the day, I'm pulling it out for you guys. I'm going to say we're on the precipice of all great things, even though it's kind of a nightmare making it all happen. But, I would say, just looking back from the early 70s to now, just how much things have kind of evolved. And the good news is we have the technologies of old or more the practices of old and the technologies of now that we can really do a lot more and achieve the goals that we need to achieve for the planet and for us. And there we go. I'm sure that's more than 90 seconds.
Carol, if I missed, if you mentioned it, when did your department start?
So the department itself started July of, I had to write it down because I always forget, July of 2014. I started in the fall of 2010. And yeah, that was pretty dramatic. And just so everyone knows, there's no other city west of Boston at the time that had an energy department. Department of one and a half for a while.
And very much in sync with the master plan.
Yes,
come into effect. So yeah, that's great. Thanks. Okay, and I assume Hannah will have the other folks who weren't here do their elevator speeches at the next meeting or sometime. Very nice. Even nice hearing from people I've served with on this committee quite a while, not knowing some of the background stuff. So next on the agenda is public education meetings. Phil and Carol.
Do you want to take the lead? Well, let me say this. Carol and I have only met by phone. And what Carol is bringing to the table here is an invitation for everybody to hear the kind of guy we were thinking would make a great speaker for Greenfield. And we all have a chance to hear this person tomorrow. Have I got that right, Carol?
So close.
No.
The guy who's speaking tomorrow looks a lot like Zach Galifianakis, so there's that. But I just came across it and think that it'll be a great webinar. But I don't know. So I'm looking at other speakers for the same type of information, though.
But can you provide a link for the thing that's tomorrow?
Yes, I did send an email earlier today. I hope it got through.
Yep.
And I know most people probably won't be able to attend, and it might not be a lot of people's cup of tea. But it's done by the Urban Land Institute, which is, been around for decades, doing great work, and Smart Growth America also. So for me, I was just thinking it was something to share in the vein of what I hope would be the kinds of things that we would be looking at as a committee to bring to the community.
Carol, I'm looking for your email.
Does anyone else need it?
Can you give me a title?
It was within the same thread as the original posting of this, Hannah's original posting of this meeting.
Just if I could ask for clarity, if you could send it as a separate message with a separate title, this is the link to the Friday meeting, then I will be able to find it in my dumpster fire of an email pile here.
All right. Well, okay, I'll do that. But
okay,
I sent it to you also separately in your email that said something about yeah, I'm not good at doing too many things at once. So I'll get it to you. Don't worry.
Okay. The main thing is let's get it to everybody in a clear way.
Yep.
So I'll call on myself for a second, Carol, and I don't know if you had a chance to see my response to your email, but I was wondering if, since I can't attend at live, if that's something that would be able to be recorded and shared with others of us interested.
So again, it's just something I came across, but it's very common. I would expect that there will be a recording, and then I can share that for anyone who can attend. I did happen to look today when I was sending it out to the committee again that it's national and that you can see who's attending, and it's an insanely large. It's like 1,000 people or something. So I think it's going to be, a good bang for your buck, and that buck is zero. So, it's a good way to spend some time on a Friday afternoon. But I can follow up on that. And then I will just follow up because I did. So what Phil and I had talked about is I had been in touch with someone who I've followed for many years. His career has been amazing. He's a planner who has done wonderful work in Massachusetts, and he gave me some names. And then I've also followed up with I sent a link last month to the New England chapter of the Congress for New Urbanism, and again, that's been a chapter I've been following for 15 years now or so, and it's a kind of a nonprofit group of building professionals, planners, designers, architects that are all involved in creating really healthy, vibrant communities through many different tools and measures. So I've asked them about giving us a presentation or working with them to figure something out. But what I was thinking, and not to confuse things, but then I happened to come across this link that I sent to everyone, which is tomorrow. And I was like, holy cow, that looks kind of like exactly what I was thinking we would be looking to do for the community. And so if I may, I thought you were going to go somewhere else, George. I did also talk with Eric Twarog in some length, and he is the planning director for the city. So I've also forwarded the link to him, and we talked about it a bit. The webinar tomorrow is just in a nutshell. I'm not good with remembering exact phrases, but it's about promising examples of equity and inclusion and resilience in community design and examples of that. So anyway, it was just really good to talk to him about this whole idea of doing like kind of some public outreach. And I think it might be okay for me to say that I believe he will be attending the meetings in MJ's retirement, because that is a seat for a planning department person. And so I would just say that, you know, we're trying to put together something that can be useful and have some feelers out. Nothing firm yet, but there we go.
Yes,
I'll just share one thing from our Carol and my conversation. She was saying, you know, what people don't realize that there are experts who at doing the kinds of things that we're trying to do for Greenfield, to build a sustainable community, and that they've done it. They kind of have best practices. We could learn a lot from them. And I shared with her how encouraging I found MJ's work on the complete streets and the parking. And I know, George, you went to these meetings too. And I'd love to hear from you. I got the sense that the last one, there was some consultants being paid for by the state who were talking about best practices in terms of parking and how people cross streets and how bike lanes are designed. And it gave, and I told Carol, because she hadn't attended that it gave me the same kind of feeling that there were people who had looked at the kinds of problems we're facing and actually can have specific recommendations. And in this case, the great thing is once the engineering work is done, the state pays for it. We get our tax money comes back to Greenfield to build the new complete streets. Was that your sense, George, too?
Was it my sense? I'm not clear on the question.
Were you equally were you as impressed as I was by the kind of thoughtful planning that was being done at MJ's, and MJ had coordinated the whole thing?
Yeah, no, from what they presented, and then from my further discussions as we were having, you know, the public at the different stations having public input, and I was overhearing or talking with some of these experts, it was clear they had such deep and long experience with applications in real life situations. And yeah, I absolutely agree that those kind of that kind of expertise can be very expanding of our awareness of possibilities. And I think that's how what Carol was, that was the sense I had of Carol's initial proposal for this kind of thing. And to contextualize what she was talking about, talking with Eric, when you first had brought this idea up, I think, Phil, and you had talked about, I think, being kind of a maybe co-hosted or endorsed by the planning board. So I had reported back, you know, as the planning board's rep to this committee, that this kind of thing was being discussed, and it was in process of kind of feeling it out. And I have mentioned that one of the things, I was referencing Carol's email to this committee shortly before our last meeting, and one of the things have been the Form-Based Code Institute or organization or something, and I happened to mention that, and Eric expressed a bit of hesitation about form-based code being that relevant to a community the size of Greenfield. And so I passed that along to Carol, and then she and Eric, I think, spoke. So I just want to be sure in my dual role here, if whatever you guys come up with for a particular proposal, if you're hoping for the planning board to, you know, be involved, I'm happy to convey that and can pass along to them what direction this is headed in. Is there anybody else who has a comment or question on this? Yes, you have a question for yourself, Phil?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Carol and I discussed Eric's response to the form-based code,
Oh,
theory of form-based code, I guess. And Carol pointed out that she'd used Littleton as an example that had used form-based code, and that's a community roughly the size of, that's not Boston, that's like Greenfield sized.
that's it. He didn't go into detail in his reaction. It was at the end of the meeting. It was just kind of a committee reports kind of thing. So he didn't go into great detail, and he and Carol maybe more. So I can't flesh that out anymore. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, I'll just say I've talked to Eric about it in the past, and that was one of the reasons that I did focus on Littleton, which is a population of 10,000, and it actually their village form-based code won the APA award of 2021. And you know, we did talk about it. I knew previously that he didn't think that, or you know, he was more aware of it for larger communities, but it has really kind of evolved. But even, you know, aside from that, what we're talking about are tools that can be used for infill development. You know, there's a lot of other techniques that just, I think it makes it a much more insurmountable challenge to have progress when people can't visualize what that looks like, or when they don't know what that means. And so I'm not going to hang my hat on form-based codes. It was just something that I've come across and seen done very, very well in communities of all sizes. I knew where Eric was coming from. That's why I talked to him about it again today after your email to just, you know, discuss that. But, you know, everything else is just, like I said, related to more zoning changes that you can make that make your community healthier. You know, all of the measures we want to take are to get us to that community that I at least envisioned when we started the sustainable master plan. And all of those things are possible if you know what those tools are and if you have the ways to get there. So this is what I'm hoping we can provide, or at least kind of get on radar.
And if it makes, you know, if we're talking about zoning changes, it makes sense to involve the planning board as much as possible. So Nancy, I saw your hand.
Yeah, just two things just before we wrap this up. I'd love to bring it to some closure of where we're actually going to take all this information. And back to the form-based code, I've also talked with Eric about it a number of years ago and sent him examples of small towns that use it successfully. It's so long ago, I can't remember which towns they were, but there we are. I'm on board, and I couldn't agree more that you know, being able to visualize which is what form-based codes are all about, visualizing what you want as opposed to having all these sort of rules and regulations that whatever, that aren't helpful in that direction. And I think, yeah, it's certainly a huge place where Greenfield should go, and where SGIC I think could be really helpful.
Cool.
To try to provide the closure you're asking for, Nancy, I'll confess that we haven't put together a proposal for a public meeting. What we've done is done a little bit of research about the kinds of experts we might bring to such a meeting, and I know Carol and I are going to listen in to this guide tomorrow, this session, and I hope that I know better what's possible, and we'll get back to you.
Very good. Is that, yes, Carl, please.
And again, just a little more closure, but I have reached out and made requests of the people that I've heard been recommended to talk with. Oh my gosh. It is late, isn't it? But so I hope to get some responses soon, and I can follow up at that point. But again, I did mention it's great to have Phil on this with me too, but it's, you know, going to take time because it's a two-way street of getting information and trying to make something happen. But it's exciting stuff.
Yes. Any last thoughts, or is that closure for now? To be continued next month, sounds like. Okay. Thank you, everybody. And thanks, Phil and Carol. And Hannah, you're leading us through priorities discussion update.
All right. Yes, and I'm going to try and shorten the time for this section a little bit because we do need to talk about our meeting schedule because of some new info that has come out. So around the conflicting CPC meetings. So what time is it? It's 6 o'clock. Okay. So I apologize again for not being here last month. What I took from the minutes and kind of what I focused on, I think this priority spreadsheet is really, really helpful, at least for me, sort of coming in and reading it again. I went through and organized it by the number system that we had utilized a few meetings ago, with looking at what was underway on our priority list, what needs attention, what feels like a future need, and then a couple things that are connected kind of to another item. And so my sense from our list of priorities, which is robust and awesome, and I think like our elevator pitches gives a really good sense of the sort of current makeup of this committee and what we as committee members really want to focus on. And so to me, the next step to take would be to figure out what we want to do with these priorities. And so I started a list, and we can certainly add to this list of connecting our priorities with some other activities that we had either started or discussed in the past, things like our guest speakers or internal speakers, so on. So my proposal for this priority spreadsheet would be to either in a meeting and per the minutes from last time, like a whole meeting, give a whole meeting to this, to go through the list of priorities and start to really pinpoint what we feel needs to be done with different priorities on the list. To just really quickly, the sort of where my brain went with it was that these priorities for the committee start to fall into advocacy activities wherein we as a committee would be, writing my turns or, bringing this up at meetings, other committee meetings, encouraging and introducing partnerships where we see a priority that needs partners, or we realize that there are two entities working on something and we want to make sure that they know each other. Guest speakers or internal speakers, and maybe it's a priority that we just want to understand more or check in about. Public conversations, similar to our deliberate downtown, where we feel like it's a priority that we need to really convene a community update or information session. Public education, which would be more something as a priority that we feel like the public needs to be educated on, and find the right entity, whether it's us or another committee, to host some sort of public education. Stakeholder development, similar to advocacy, but a priority that we feel like we want to really be kind of out there encouraging other committees or organizations or the city to be focusing on it. Or something that we just sort of want to put a pin in it for the next plan. Maybe it's something that's like a priority, but it's so connected to other things that have to happen first or what have you, that we're like, we want to keep this on the radar, but there's nothing we can do. And I'm sure I've missed other actions that we could take, but that's what I wanted to propose tonight for consideration for a future meeting, potentially April, though I won't be here in April, so I don't want it to be April. But that was my proposal, was to say, we have this list of priorities. It feels to me very clear and organized. And so then taking the next step now of really combing and figuring out where these priorities live as far as action. Phil.
Could I just the scribe here, what was the topic after public education and before put a pin in it?
Stakeholder development.
Say it again.
Stakeholder development.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, Jonah.
Oh, sorry.
Well, first, just want to say I think this is great, Hannah. And the spreadsheet was a little hodgepodgey since we're all just chiming in with different things. So I appreciate you organizing it this way, and I think this is a big step forward for us just to have this be organized. I think that's a good idea. I think the one other thing that I don't know, maybe it's in the just put a pin in a category, or maybe the one other thing that folks with more experience on this committee or with the town can say, that's not appropriate. Like that's not the right role for SGIC, which
Yeah.
I don't quite have the context for that yet. So I think that's another category that we may want to add.
More of a handoff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great one. Any other thoughts or any other sort of action categories that feel like they're missing from this list?
I'll call myself. It sounds like an interesting analysis, Hannah, and thank you. And it is kind of, trying to frame things and how we as an entity can have some impact or influence. And I know you just sent that out shortly before the meeting started. I didn't have a chance to peruse the revision of this spreadsheet. But you've got on that same document, that's that second page, is kind of reorganized in a way. Now, do you have these multiple categories you just cited listed on there?
I don't, but I will drop them in there as a little bit of a key for sure. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, can I ask, just as far as moving this forward, because I know all of us have been frustrated at times about wanting to move ahead. It's a complex task, and we're trying to put our multi-headed committee to effective work on it. So just as far as when we get to it next, so you were saying in your earlier email you said about this meeting, Jesse, who was a planned guest, the chairs of the Chamber of Commerce for Franklin County, right?
So
Jesse Dean. When is she due to come in?
So she is going.
Is that in May?
With the committee's approval, her next available month is May, because she and I actually have the same conflict in April. We will both be at an event. So May is when she is planning to come, if that still sounds good to everyone. She is the executive director of the Franklin County Chamber. Not so new now, but still very new, and very much a change, I think, for the chamber, as far as I think she'll have a lot to share about her vision for where the chamber is going. That's very relevant.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll continue. I appreciate your the value of having you there for this. I think we have chosen to have you as our in the position you're in, and it it's important, I think, to have you present. So I don't know, you were mentioning earlier about some scheduling issue. I don't know if we want to think about adjusting our schedule. We've occasionally done it for a particular month if it's works out for most of the committee. So just wanted to throw that out there to not lose any more momentum than necessary, or to move this forward. So just throwing it out there as a thought.
Yeah, no, that's a great thought. And if no one else has anything right in this moment about the priority spreadsheet, it might be a really good segue to scheduling, because we do need to talk about scheduling, everybody's favorite topic.
As well, potentially. So
Okay, so as some of you may know, the CPC has been meeting, the Community Preservation Committee, who we've had some interaction with, has been meeting twice a month on the second and fourth Thursdays. Fourth Thursday, of course, also being our meeting. So they are soon moving to once a month, and Christian and I were both kind of hoping that they would choose the second Thursday as the one that would move forward, but of course they could not due to conflict. So the issue here is that at the moment, only the City Hall meeting room is truly and easily equipped for hybrid meetings. Christian and Travis and I are currently in conversation with Fernando, who is in the IT department for the city, about the potential for bringing the smaller room at John Zahn to have an easily hybridized meeting set up in there. So we're all hoping that that becomes a sort of quick fix. But not knowing the cost of that setup, it was a little unclear. This all was happening like in the last 48 hours of conversation. So the challenge at the moment is that I think I would advocate for continuing to offer a hybrid option, though I would love to see our committee move back to an in-person preference. And I would add, I am waiting to hear from the mayor's office because at the state level, at the end of March, it is probable, though not finalized, that I'm trying to make sure I say this right. I'm sure there are people in this room who can correct me. That while the hybrid option might continue, an in-person quorum will be reinstated as mandatory. Is that right, Anna? Anna's nodding. So I think the thing about a hybrid meeting is that it vastly improves accessibility. And I think it's kind of undeniable that that has helped in so many ways. So the options here are to, we and the CPC could sort of trade off fourth Thursdays in the City Hall meeting room so that to ensure that we would always, at least every other month, have a very easy hybrid option. And then the other month we would be at John Zahn, presumably, which again may or may not be outfitted in the near future based on budget, or we could reschedule our standing meeting. Travis feels that the CPC is not able to reschedule for the same reason that I shared with him, which is that I feel like we have also discussed rescheduling in the past, and we just always seem to find that the fourth Thursday is the one that works best. So I'm not sure that that's even really worth looking at. Christian did throw out there in the conversation as well that the library will have a fully equipped Zoom room. So whenever that comes online, all of this will be moot, but might be a minute. Walls and whatnot. So thoughts on that? And then I also did want to make a motion to change the date of our April meeting for selfish reasons.
Phil, you had a comment. You're muted.
I just want to say it'd be great to be in the library.
Yeah.
And when you say change the date, you mean make it a Tuesday rather than a Thursday?
Or something. Yeah.
Should we keep these separate? Because that April thing is just a separate discussion. I also thought of the library. It's ironic that however old City Hall is, it's more Zoom hybrid compatible than the Johnson Center. But I thought of the library too. Do we know how soon that will be available? Any know the timeline?
Carol had her hand up.
Carol, yeah.
Muted.
Sorry. Yep. I think it's June 1st now.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so pretty
Okay.
soon. Nice.
Okay.
Yeah, I did want to all clarify. So if the state is saying you have to have person quorum, now is the state saying all Zoom meeting like we're having right now? April?
No, I think that the option to be fully remote is going to be taken away, was my understanding, but it's
Okay.
also, it's being voted on, it's not finalized.
Gotcha. And so the old situation used to be pre-COVID was that, I mean, there remote participation, we weren't all doing Zoom stuff, but there was a remote participation option prior to COVID. And what it, you did have to have an in-person quorum, but you also, there were very strict rationale, 5 particular ones, including disability, military service, and a few others, illness. And you had to be quite formalized that you were meeting one of those 5 criteria to allow remote participation, and that it was documented in the minutes that that was the reason someone was remotely participating. Does anyone know if we're, I don't know, Anna, if you're on top of this, if we're going back to that standard, or are they being a little more flexible since we've had all this 3 years of Zoom experience?
I honestly don't know. Like Hannah, I just kind of have heard rumblings, but I have heard from someone at Mass Department Office of Disability that that is a possibility, that it would go back to needing basically some kind of as a reasonable accommodation for something rather than just by choice. Yeah, but we don't know yet.
Thank you. So we should assume that'll be the case for the April meeting, whenever we have it. Gotcha. Phil, yes.
You know, I thought that they'd kick the can down the road again, and that we could keep doing what we're doing for another year, but I don't have my hands on the email. That's not very helpful. So, but that was my question. Sorry.
I was promised follow-up from Caitlin in the mayor's office, but it sounded like she wasn't going to know anything until the end of the month. But I don't know if that was just when she was going to communicate it, or if that was when the decision was being made.
So, and I'll just, again, so we could go to only in-person meetings temporarily until like the library is available, if City Hall isn't an option and there isn't something available at John's On that's more workable. So that would be obviously an option. It's not, it's far from ideal, but we could do that.
Definitely. And I actually did not realize how soon the library was going to be available. So honestly, this is actually not as big a deal as it felt in my head, because CPC took City Hall this month, which means ostensibly we would have it next month. And then in May, we would have to maybe just be in person or figure something out, or maybe by then would hear from Fernando that there was some way to bring John's On online. And then it's June. So yeah.
So I'm not hearing any proposal from you, Hannah, that we switch our regular meeting time. It's more working out the logistics of where we'll be each time. Should we, I was going to say, should we then segue to April, or Nancy, did you have something more on the bigger?
I had a question about, my understanding was that John's On could do hybrids in the large meeting room. Is that not accurate?
Apparently it's just very difficult. It's very complicated. It's not like an easy setup. It's like someone has to go over there and do it ahead of time. And it just, Christian said it was just such a pain.
Phil, you've experienced it a lot in the city council.
It takes staffing. So they'll staff it for city council. They won't staff it for planning board. Give you a feel for the levels here. Right. And then, so they're not going to staff it for GC, Sustainable Greenfield.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
You know, one thing about the scheduling, and folks can just overrule this based on, I haven't been involved in the conversations around trying to find another time. I just wonder, it seems like a shame to be at the same time as CBC, that
I know.
CPC, mean that like we may want to be involved with those meetings occasionally. And wonder if just a quick survey of current committee members would be worthwhile to see if an alternate time would be possible. But maybe it's been tried enough by people who are currently on here that know it's not possible, and that's fine too.
It has, I mean, it has been a minute, I feel like, since we did a round of schedules. And I feel like a couple of the big things were the fire station and the library, which are now no longer barriers. So that may have opened up someone. If we, if, as Jonah says, we want to do sort of a quick poll of other days.
It's a question of days of the week plus weeks of the month, right? So I mean, we could put together a quick little Google survey to send out,
Absolutely.
and yeah,
I'm happy to do that if that sounds good, just to kind of do a check-in.
Sure.
Okay.
So you would send that out between meetings, and right, you said Hannah. Okay, great.
Yeah.
And so we look ahead just to April itself.
That would be great.
So did you have an alternative proposal for April, Hannah?
Not specifically, but my April is pretty flexible, which I feel like is not true probably for everyone on this committee. I think maybe, does it make sense to start with the same week? I don't want to like open it up so broadly. So,
Yeah.
are there, I would start, I guess, are there days of the week that do not work for people in general? Or like, you know, third Tuesday or
general
Well, that's a more
Wednesdays don't work,
complicated.
but yeah,
Wednesdays? No,
in general,
Thursdays are
but yeah.
good. Can we just do a different?
a different Thursday. Would the third Thursday work for people? April 20th? George,
One of
you,
the issues for me is I have planning board the first, third Thursday of every month.
first and third. Okay. What about the second Thursday for folks?
That would be okay for me, but I can only speak for myself.
There is a fire station meeting, but they are
Doing
usually
counseling.
quite short. And I think they're starting them at 4:30. So as I've done in the past, I could just show up late if it goes
And-
more than a half hour.
But we're talking about
And again, this would just be for April.
Yep.
Just April,
like 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks from now, which might be good. I mean, we're in sort of a momentum thing. It would all be around the spreadsheet. It would be in person. Ideally, we would get some whiteboarding going on.
Okay.
Is
There's
there a
three.
way-
Is it
Hall
City
meeting room?
Hall?
We'll have City Hall, right?
Yeah.
Oh, we
Is there
better.
free parking at City Hall?
After 5, there is.
Is there a whiteboard
And
in
so-
the City Hall meeting room?
So are you talking about Thursday, the 13th?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, I can't do that, but
Oh, okay. Okay.
other people could. It's a
Okay.
one-time thing that I have an event.
Okay. No
I
problem.
could do a shortened meeting on a different day of the week, potentially. An hour and a half is a little hard.
I'm sorry. I can't remember. We were doing the fire station meeting in the city hall meeting room and it was hybrid. So that would be a conflict because even
Oh,
if,
okay.
but I'm thinking that they keep confusing me between the library and the fire station because they're both on Thursdays and they keep switching off between hybrid and, but I think it's all online now. I can confirm that if that's the day you choose.
Okay. Okay. Greta, is there another day of the week that an hour and a half would work for you, or is Thursday really is the only day that really works for a longer meeting? Okay.
can you do a spreadsheet quickly then we'll do it in a week and get a decision.
If it's possible for us to settle on a date, I mean, we would still need to run it by Marlo and Kim. Marlo and Kim and MJ, if MJ is still with us.
I will share that the last Thursday of April has been a problem for me. I mean, I have a quarterly problem with the last Thursday, and the last Thursday of April is one of those.
Right. And so that would be what this meeting usually is.
Yeah.
Okay. So Nancy's not able to do April 13th at all. And Wednesdays are hard. Greta, how are Tuesdays for you? If the meeting, if you came for like an hour, like I'd rather have you there.
I could do Wednesday. I could do Wednesday for an hour. Tuesday would be hard.
Would be hard, but Wednesdays are hard for Jonah. Okay. How are Fridays for people? I know that's not the most fun day. I'm seeing head shaking. Boo, I'm seeing boos and thumbs downs. Okay. Mondays for people in general. Not a great day. Okay day. Okay day. I'm seeing okay day. Okay.
I could, well, we're only,
Some Tuesdays.
again, we're only talking about one-time thing, right?
One-time thing.
And
Just
so we're talking the 24th, April 24th.
I
Am I in the wrong year?
can't do it.
17 or 24.
People
Oh,
do
yeah.
Monday, April 17th.
Is that a
17.
holiday?
That's Patriots Day, yeah,
Thursday. Are people
which is
big
fine. Which is
Patriots
fine.
Day celebrators?
I think we're off.
Bring cupcakes.
City's closed.
Oh, the
Yeah.
city's closed. Can we meet in the room when the city's closed? No, right?
Hmm,
No.
I'm
Okay.
not sure if that's,
The 24th would be the week that we would normally meet.
No, actually, we're the fourth Thursday. So, but the 24th would be the 5th week of April.
Oh, really?
They're no, they're only 4 full weeks of April. The 30th would
Well,
and it's-
oh, I see. Okay. So the 24th would be the week we usually meet.
it
Right.
would- does the 24th work for everyone? That's a yes.
I'll be
Sure.
on vacation.
That's a no. Okay. Tuesday the 25th. April 25th. That's a no for Nancy.
I have chorus rehearsal.
Okay.
Do we want to go with the second Monday? Have we looked at that yet?
That's Easter.
That's Easter Monday. That works for
Easter?
me,
Oh,
but I'm Jewish, so
I'm getting lost.
So you said,
we've lost
24th.
now.
We had one no for the 24th, right?
I could do the
Yeah.
10th, I think.
We could do the 10th.
I'm
Could
also-
everyone do Monday the 10th?
can anyone not do Monday the 10th?
Is the city closed on Easter Monday? No.
I'm sure not.
Patriots, yes.
I don't
one
think Easter
no.
Monday is a thing. I don't think
Right.
Easter- yeah.
Okay, so then 5 o'clock on Monday the 10th works for everyone
And it's in person.
in person in the city hall meeting room, which I will schedule with Christian and Anna. Okay. Okay.
And you'll check with the other
Yes.
committee members,
Okay.
including Mary and might be Eric.
Oh,
rather than
Mary.
MJ.
Oh, thank you for mentioning Mary. Yes. So Marlo, Kim, Mary, and MJ, though I'm not sure. Hopefully MJ could come at least to like send her off. And we'll bring Easter cupcakes or something.
And just to clarify something, as far as that
Yeah.
meeting, next meeting, I had said earlier implied that Carol and Phil will be bringing a follow-up to that meeting, but it sounds like we're just going to focus on the priorities. So
Yeah.
just want to
We'll just,
thanks.
okay. Yeah, we'll just really dig into our action items.
Okay.
Okay, and then I will send around a Google survey about meeting days in general, though taking from this case study, I'm a little worried about it, but we will do it.
Good point.
We'll do it.
Should we just do like a monthly doodle? Do we have to have a standing?
We have to have a standing, I think.
Yeah. But you have to put it in the paper.
Yeah, it's like a yeah.
April
pre-notice
10th.
thing. Okay, so April 10th. Yes, Carol.
I don't know if I want to say this out loud, but I just put it into my calendar and I can see what rooms are available, and that the city hall meeting room is showing up as taken.
Not available.
I
Okay.
know there's a Monday meeting that happens. I don't know what it is, but it might be the committee. No, that's not. That's... Anyway,
If we,
If
if
we're all in person, it's not as crucial.
Yeah, the plan is to be all in person. So we could try then for John Zahn. And it didn't even occur to me to ask, and Anna or anyone who might know, I mean, if we're in John Zahn and someone brings a laptop and signs into Zoom and broadcasts it, isn't that the same as when we've used like my Zoom link in the past, or does it have to be some certain kind of system that's like encrypted?
I don't think people would actually be able to participate in the meeting or hear the meeting or anything. So
yeah, okay. So it's just not, yeah, okay.
If that were allowed, we could have done hybrid 2 years ago.
Right. Okay. So
it's easy getting into.
No, sorry, go ahead.
To get into John's on, we just need a key. I one time ran one of the planning board meetings. I just have to get a hold of a key, and it's easy. So, easy process.
Okay. Okay. So I will book John Zahn. I'll double check about City Hall, but it sounds like that is booked.
it looks like John's on is too, but can't hurt to check. Maybe it's not showing me the accurate info.
But we could use a smaller room in John's on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can find something.
Okay.
We got a time.
Okay.
Weather might be nice. We can meet outdoors.
Yeah.
Oh.
After this, can we just meet at a bar?
I know, really, right?
We'll get it done. Like that.
We would Post-its and drinks, and I feel like we'd have
The
such
best
a good
kind of
time.
meeting.
Yeah.
Those are the committees I'm usually on.
Right?
Phil, had your hand up?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to leave. Can I move that we adjourn?
Yep.
Second.
Sure, unless there's any announcement to make. I assume that there's a second amongst those thumbs. So, all right. So, all in favor of adjourning? Aye.
Thanks
Take
a
care,
lot.
everyone.
Thank you.